Good morning to everybody, and welcome to this Sustainable Animal Nutrition Day, which is the third edition, because actually, thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, we got the opportunity to organize this event. This will be the third year, indicating that we have consolidated a tradition. Is extremely important and extremely interesting, of course. And we hope that the content of this year will be also at least interesting for the audience here in the room, because this year, compared to the previous one, it will be hybrid. It means that there are some class from the high school here in the room at the Faculty of Veterinary Science in Lodi, and at the same time we open this event to other people who are registered in different ways around Italy, and not only. We have also our partner of the project from Serbia, and also few classes from another institute here very close, Codogno, Institute Tosi. Come, our director is just coming on time, is perfect. And so nowadays we have around more than 10 classes disseminated around Lombardy, because we have a Mendel Institute. Institute Cantoni is present here in the room, and also we have the Tosi from Lodi. Some institute not present here today ask the university or the department to replicate in some way this day, maybe more focus on what the University of Milan, specifically our department, can offer for you in the near future in terms of career or possibility of course of studies and so on. And I already said yes, even if I didn't discuss with our director who is here, but it is important for us also to open our doors to you as a potential student, let me say. What more? I'm going to introduce a little bit this event, and after that I will invite our director to give some greetings to you remotely and also in presence. And please consider that you are free to ask question, curiosity also in Italian, okay? Because of course we have a little bit obliged to do it in English because we have some partner in Serbia, but at the same time we are open to any kind of language, any kind, at least Italian and English is the recommended one. So shall we start a little bit with a very quick presentation from my side that will introduce you what I'm going to say. Around here in the building, we have shown just a very small piece of this big campus, because you have seen the library and also some statue here in the building. But of course, our department is extremely huge, important, one of the largest in, or probably the large one in the University of Milan. And we can offer several options in terms of graduate or master student and so on. And they are listed here, are in Italian, so you can go into the web page and look what we can offer. Of course, some of them are dedicated to your age, let me say, because are the initial phase of the academic student career. Other are for master students. So you have to look here mainly. As you know, the vet faculty, I said before, has a limited number of places, or at least we have about 100 places open to you. Is a competition to get in, and therefore we have to be honest, because there is some multiple choice questionnaire that you have to pass in order to be enrolled in our faculty. However, I'm not going to lose too much time. Just to give you a very brief overview of our department, I choose this video.
Ecco il nostro nuovissimo campus, inaugurato nel 2018. Qui non troverete solo strutture all'avanguardia, sia per la didattica che per la pratica clinica, ma scoprirete anche un modo diverso di studiare e vivere l'università, grazie anche al rapporto quotidiano con i docenti. Scoprirete una città a misura d'uomo, con i servizi efficienti e un centro storico ricco di vita. Ma in soli 30 minuti vi troverete nel cuore di Milano. Scoprirete cosa vuol dire far parte di una realtà nuova, ma che ha alle spalle più di 2 secoli di storia, entrata poi a far parte della statale.
Studiare a Lodi nel nostro campus offre un'esperienza unica.
I'm sorry for the foreign participant who, unfortunately, we provide just in Italian because it is what we have today, but we are going to prepare the English version very soon. Well, go ahead. Today, we are here for Sustainable Animal Nutrition, which is an event as I said, is the 3rd year that we are going to organize with this webinar, which has been or is organized under the umbrella of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, because it founded our department. It will be the last year, the 4th one, for this project, which is a Grande Rilevanza project in conjunction with Serbia. Well, it is important for us to keep in mind who funded this project because they believe in us. Is the 3rd project funded to us over the year, one during the expo and the 2nd one in intermediate phase, and this one is the last. But actually, what we try to address in this project is sustainable animal nutrition as reported here, or better, which solution we can put in place in order to implement sustainability in animal production. Actually, sustainable animal nutrition has been funded quite well by in different scenarios, as you can see here. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also by Fondazione Cariplo. And we have also this year a very nice, exciting educational project, always in conjunction with the University of Novi Sad. And this was InnoCap Feed, focused on feed technology and animal nutrition. And the last project that we got is from the regional one, ASSO. And as you can see, they granted us a lot. Of course, please keep in mind that in this figure reported below, we have also some partners. Most of them are, or most of the case is a Polytechnico of Milan, but not only. What we address in this project is reported here. Different kind of material, food leftovers, new byproducts. For instance, we cooperate with the largest plant which process crop salad here in Italy, which is based in San Paolo d'Arton, very close to Bergamo. We have a very well-known group, is a French one, and over there is the largest plant for that. And also we address also insect in different scenario. And again, very recently in conjunction with Serbia, cold press oilseed, because as you know, energy is extremely costly. Therefore, we have to find solutions also which are able to reduce the cost of the feed or the diet of the animal. We have a running project about the use of cocoa byproducts in conjunction with pasture. And as you can see, in many of these projects, we have different partners according to the needs and what is necessary. Here, the big player, of course, FINS Institute, which is the Institute of Feed and Food Institute based in Novi Sad. We have a colleague connected, all the group from there. We heard something later on. But of course, the other partner or the leading partner is the University of Milan with the Department of Veterinary Science and Animal Science. The other reported here contribute in different ways in addressing the topics. In fact, we got the opportunity for implement our connection starting from Norway, Marine Institute, until Illinois, University of Lyon, Agroscope, and so on. So it's a very interesting network that we build up over the time. Of course, thanks to the also the fund that we receive over the time. Well, let me approach to the end. This is the program of today. After me, I will give I will give the talk to Professor Mauro Di Giancamillo. He is the head of this department, and he can tell us how it is important for us to interact also with you. And after that, you see a list of names. They are all very young scientists or PhD from different fields, of course, with different mentors and so on. And in this scenario, we are going to address different aspects referred to nutrition, okay? Because the title of this project is Sustainable Animal Nutrition. I hope you will be able to offer you an interesting half day or few hours. I ask them to be very quick with speed presentation in order to avoid any boring effect on you. I know you are so young. In the middle, thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is important for me also to remind, we are going to offer you a coffee break. And in the second part, we will start with a colleague from the FINS Institute, and after that, other young PhD students, okay? Are more or less 2 hours, not so much, but I hope you can enjoy it. Let me conclude with this, which is the web page where you can find further solution information. Again, I send to all the school involved today also the book of abstract of this day in Italian in order to facilitate your comprehension of the contents of today. Okay. This is the last slide from my side because it is important to remind that it is possible thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from one side, and also this Grande Rilevanza project, which founded Italy and also Serbia until today. Okay, thank you very much for staying with us. I will give the talk to Professor Mauro Di Giancamillo, the head of our department. Okay, Mauro, please.
It's a very pleasure for me to be here now. Io vi ringrazio per essere qui, ringrazio Luciano e tutti i partner, il professor Pinotti, scusate, assolutamente, e tutti i partner che sono intervenuti perché credo che siano, cioè il nostro compito, il compito dell'Accademia è quello della formazione, oltre che ovviamente quello della ricerca e della terza missione. Questo è, come sentivo parlare, it's the largest department of our university. Noi abbiamo realizzato questo dipartimento con fatica, ma con grande soddisfazione, perché ci ha consentito di essere tra i 4 dipartimenti di eccellenza della medicina veterinaria in Italia. Siamo nel ranking, solo qualche anno fa eravamo in fondo alla classifica. Questo, come dire, aumenta il livello delle aspettative dei nostri studenti e dei nostri partner nell'ambito della ricerca e anche nella diffusione della terza missione. Mentre venivo qui, mi arrivano delle mail su, abbiamo vinto anche degli altri progetti in terza missione che saranno, come dire, anche a disposizione. Sapete, la terza missione è una condivisione delle conoscenze accademiche con la cittadinanza, con portatori di interesse diversi da quelli che sono i ricercatori o gli stessi studenti, insomma. E questo è molto importante perché lega il Dipartimento al territorio. Territorio a vocazione agrozootecnica, come avete potuto vedere, abbiamo 3 corsi di laurea chiaramente imperniati sulle realtà agrozootecniche, uno sulla medicina veterinaria che ha comunque importanti declinazioni agrozootecniche e uno biotecnologico, anche qui con vari rami, per non parlare dei master degree, del PhD courses che noi abbiamo 10 scuole di specializzazione attive, quindi l'offerta formativa del Dipartimento è molto importante, oltre al fatto che è molto bello. Abbiamo avuto la fortuna che questo bando per la costruzione del polo l'ha vinto uno dei degli architetti viventi più importanti del momento, l'architetto, un archistar giapponese che si chiama Kengo Kuma. Il nostro rettore conta di averlo ancora qua nel mese di gennaio, forse per poter fare una sorta di inaugurazione, perché questo polo non è mai stato inaugurato nella sua parte finale, perché c'è stato il Covid. E quindi questo ha impedito di fare un'inaugurazione come merita. Io non voglio portarvi via altro tempo, nel senso che mi fa piacere, mi ha illustrato, io faccio il radiologo nella vita, quando non faccio il direttore di dipartimento, faccio il radiologo veterinario e abbiamo la fortuna di radiografare un po' tutto. L'altro giorno facevamo degli studi per una parte dei colleghi dei beni culturali, facevo tacca delle chitarre per vedere com'era la composizione del legno, perché io uso dei sistemi di densitometria che ci vediamo attraverso. Abbiamo discusso anche su altri aspetti densitometrici, quindi mi piace questo tipo di contaminazione perché in questo posto ci sono persone che si occupano della produzione degli animali, del loro benessere, noi li curiamo, cioè è un insieme di competenze che fa bene, lo vediamo ai nostri ragazzi. Noi ospitiamo tutti, questo posto è aperto a tutti, le nostre sale di studio non sono limitate ai nostri studenti. Noi ospitiamo studenti dei licei che arrivano a studiare qua. Ho chiesto al nostro rettore di tenere aperta la biblioteca un po' più a lungo, per ora ci sono poche risorse, però lo scopo è avere un punto di incontro che non sia solo per gli studenti dei nostri corsi di studio, per i post-fellow, per i post-doc, ma che sia anche a disposizione dei cittadini e degli studenti delle scuole superiori se ne hanno bisogno. Sono tanti ragazzi, stiamo ripartendo perché il Covid ha allontanato molti di loro, questo è indubbio, e abbiamo, e questa è una testimonianza di un'iniziativa che porta i ragazzi a venire a frequentare, perché la formazione a distanza ha i suoi vantaggi, perché ha dimostrato che può essere anche efficace, ma il confronto, il chiacchierare, non soltanto di scienza o di studio, ma anche di altre tematiche, è comunque dal nostro punto di vista estremamente importante, e quindi cerchiamo ovviamente di favorire questo tipo di iniziative. Io mi fermerei qui, vi ringrazio della pazienza anche per avermi fatto parlare in italiano, ma adesso devo andare a cercare anche qualcosa, perché devo anche poi tornare a casa in qualche modo. E quindi
grazie Mauro per essere intervenuto. I would like to thank again our head of department, because it is important also to inform all the community that we have here that to have such large department that supports such kind of events, it is extremely important. So really, thanks again, Mauro, and also to be here and safe, first of all, and thank you again. So we are ready for go ahead, and have a nice day. Okay.
Thank you very much, Phil, and you're welcome. Thank you.
Ciao,
Grazie.
Mauro,
Ciao.
Scusate. Figurati. So we are ready to move in the program. Accordingly, we can start with the first presentation. Please consider that some of our PhD students are out abroad in another country for performing an internship. For instance, among the people who is going to talk today, the first Francesca Fumagalli. She is in Switzerland right now, working on a project on ruminants. After her, also Luca Ferrari, for instance, is in Belgium, working on how to trace antibiotics in feedstuffs. And because, as you know, during the PhD program, it is important for us to guarantee to our PhD the opportunity for spend a period abroad, okay? And this is extremely important from our side. All the PhD that you are going to hear today are under the umbrella of the doctorate in nutritional science, which is one of the 2 doctorates hosted by this department. And you will see how nutrition can be declinated in different ways. So shall we start with the first presentation given by Francesca Fumagalli, because she was busy with removing rumen bolus this morning, for what I heard and read in the chat.
Good morning, everybody.
So I think that you should know, or at least she was also a professor in your institute. So before to start his career here as PhD. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I am Francesca Fumagalli, a PhD student, and today I'm proud to present a review related to mycotoxin management in the feed chain. Our research group from Department of Veterinary and Animal Science has made many publications in the livestock production field, and in particular feed production, focusing on its safety. This literature review was published in August 2021 in the Toxins Journal. You can easily find it in the web because it is open access. Mycotoxins are chemical and biological hazards for feed safety, animal health, and food safety. To protect human and animal health, an integrated system is needed from feed production to the final consumer. In this slide, you can see the relationship between feed and food and how they are interconnected with each other. Our research area is in the top of the chain here. But if problems occurs here, all the subsequent phase may involve negative effects. Livestock production is the second line and represent the carryover between feed and humans because animal product can be contaminated by mycotoxins. To protect human health, it is mandatory to prevent mycotoxin from feed. Surveys have been performed to assess the worldwide incidence of mycotoxin contamination in feed and raw feed materials, mainly grains and grain co-products. These surveys state that these are the principal contaminating mycotoxins in feed. The probability of finding only one mycotoxin contaminating raw materials or feed is extremely low. Worldwide, the incidence of co-contamination is high. The global monitoring reported that 72% of the samples of feed and raw materials were contaminated with more than one mycotoxin. The table shows the occurrence of mycotoxin in European feeds. In red is highlighted the major incidence of mycotoxins, and in blue the co-occurrence of mycotoxin in European feeds. Here you can see the definitions made by the European Food Safety Authority of modified and emerging mycotoxins and the list of the most studied. Modified mycotoxin differ in structure, solubility, polarity, and molecular mass from the parental compound. They can be formed during the processing of foods from contaminating raw materials. Here. In this case, they are called chemically modified mycotoxins, or they are reconverted to the original toxin during human, animal, plant, and microorganism metabolism, and called biologically modified mycotoxins. Climate change has an impact on the occurrence of feed food safety hazards along the whole agri-food chain, from farm to fork. The map shows risk for maize aflatoxin contamination harvested in 3 different climate scenarios: present, +2 degrees, and +5 degrees. I point out aflatoxin because it's the main mycotoxin studied, with the greatest risk for human health. This study indicates how climate change can increase the risk of global mycotoxicosis. An integrated system is based on the synchronized use of prevention and control implements at all stages of production, from the field to the final consumer. A possible approach for managing mycotoxin risks in the feed supply chain is the use of an integrated system, as you see in the picture. The main suggested strategies for decontamination include elimination of mycotoxins from grains, decreasing mycotoxin bioavailability in the animal gastrointestinal tracts, or directly degrading mycotoxins in feed. Mycotoxins are studied less from a nanotechnological point of view, although this sector is evolving. Modern strategies that manage mycotoxins must cope with climate change, trying to reduce greenhouse gas emission and resource preservation. In the next slides, I report for each feed chain phase the innovations in terms of mycotoxin control and mitigation. The modern technologies in this phase are those reported. The factors that influence the presence and production of mycotoxins in crops were also highlighted. The so-called pre-harvest strategies include the choice of appropriate agronomic techniques. Frequent and increasing strategies are biotechnologies, which protect the crop during vegetative growth, or the use of fungicides is another solution, but the problem remains the dose. In this direction are developing some nano and biofungicides, reducing the amount of chemical substances and their environmental impact, such as the use of genomic and other omic techniques in plant breedings. Mycotoxin contamination can occur in farms after harvesting or during the storage process. Improper storage of grain leads to quality and quantity losses. Modern technologies are reported with particular attention to controlled atmosphere of silos and facilities, such as sensing technologies like eNose. A coordinated mycotoxin feed mill management program starts with wide-ranging quality controls. It must include more than merely testing for mycotoxin during the receiving process, and it must have strategies to prevent their introduction into the manufacturing process. To ensure the production of high-quality feed, a team effort is needed. This can lead to a safe, clean, and well-maintained mill. In the picture, you can see the modern technologies applied in animal nutrition to prevent mycotoxicosis and animal diseases. Contamination by mycotoxins can occur in meat, milk, and food of animal origin supply chains. An example of mycotoxin biological modification is the transformation of feed aflatoxin AFP1 into AFM1 of ruminant milk, resulting in a risk to human health. Thanks for your attention. If you have questions, I'm at your disposal.
Thank you, Francesca. Here in the room, there is any question, comment, curiosity, also in Italian, no problem in answer. Did you recover the bolus?
Yeah, everything goes well.
Oh, great. Because this morning, as I said, she was busy in collecting bolus from the room, and in dairy cow, we are studying on that in Agroscope in Switzerland. Also from the audience, I didn't check to the chat if there is any query. Actually, no. So if there is any question, we can move. No question also from this side. Okay, Francesca, just a very brief comment. You mentioned several approaches in order to reduce mycotoxins, okay, or control their occurrence. But which is the best candidate, in your opinion, among those that you mentioned? Yeah,
it's not an easy question, but I think it will be very interesting. And the most used and the most important studied or strategies are the bioconversion of some new substances or the nanotechnological techniques that are in an evolving discipline in this sector, and maybe some maybe like bio substances that can be used as to protect animal health and to guarantee animal welfare.
So thank you, Francesca. Shall we move to the next presentation? We can give also an applause if you want to Francesca for the presentation in case. The next presentation will be from Michele Manoni.
Okay, good morning. My name is Michele Manoni. I'm a PhD student in the course of nutritional science with Professor Pinotti. And my presentation today deals with the use of tannins to mitigate the methane emissions from ruminants. So since we talk about methane emissions and pollution, I would like to give you some information on the greenhouse gases and which are the effects of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So in 2019, the total anthropogenic greenhouse gases emissions were close to the amount of 52 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalents. Most of this amount, so the 3/4 of it, were carbon dioxide, and we can see in the blue part of the graph. Close to 20% was methane, and then the rest was fluorinated gases and nitric oxide. I guess we are not familiar with the concept of carbon dioxide equivalents, so just to give you some examples or details. You should know that 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalents is like the mass of 18 cows. And up to here, it's not a problem. We can wonder how much is this weight. But the problem is when we get to the gigatons, so 1 ton multiplied for 1 billion, because we get to 1 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalents, which is like the mass of 200 million elephants. So we can understand how big is the amount of this of this gas and how it can be dangerous for the planet, for the environment. the focus of today is methane, and as I told you, it's a greenhouse gas, and it's produced in lower amounts than carbon dioxide, but is 86 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in trapping heat in the atmosphere, which is the main effect of greenhouse gases. And it has, of course, consequences on humans and organisms, with more than 1 million of premature deaths per year mainly for cardiopulmonary diseases, and also on crops, with 15% annual yield loss of the main crops produced, such as soy, wheat, and etc. But since we know that the lifetime of in the atmosphere of methane is short, close to 12 years, an immediate action on methane reduction would turn to a rapid decrease on global warming. So that's why we decided to target methane. These are the main sectors responsible for methane emissions. And we can see that the biggest slice of the cake is enteric fermentation, the focus of my research. And I don't know if you're familiar with these concepts, but I just report a summary. Ruminants are herbivorous animals, so they eat plant fibers, and they are able to convert these fibers into energy and proteins. And this is possible thanks to the presence of the microbial community in the rumen, so the rumen microbiota. And the main products of the enteric fermentation are volatile fatty acids and gases such as carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and methane. So we need to target this physiological methane production in order to increase the sustainability of ruminant production. And one of the ways to do it is the use of tannins. Tannins are plant secondary metabolites, and they are found in a wide variety of plants, seeds, fruits, and so on. For example, red fruits, chestnut, grapes. But in this study, we decided to focus not on a specific plant extract, but on two specific molecules, which are ellagic acid and gallic acid. And we know that the dietary supplementation for ruminants with tannins can, on one hand, decrease the methane production and also the ammonia formation. But on the other hand, it can affect the feed digestibility and the production of short-chain fatty acids. So the aim of this study was to investigate the effects of these two molecules that I told you before, so ellagic acid and gallic acid, on rumen fermentation and gas production by using an in vitro approach, which is called the Hohenheim gas test. In this study, we collected rumen fluid from fistulated cows, and we mixed it with a feed substrate in these glass syringes that you see in the picture. And we let the fermentation go for 24 hours. And these are just few results that I decided to report today because of time. And on the left, we see a graph reporting the data on methane production. And we see that the treatment with tannins, so the red bars, decreased the production of methane if compared to the control, which is the first blue bar on the left. And following the same trend, we see a reduction of ammonia on the right. So in the same way, the red bars are lower than the first blue bar. And these are the positive results of the study. On the other hand, we also observed a slight but significant reduction of the digestibility of organic matter and of the total short-chain fatty acids production. So we observed the positive and somehow negative effects of the use of tannins. And in the next steps of this research, we would like to analyze the long-term effects of tannins on rumen fermentation. So we would like to go more in depth on the molecular processes occurring during enteric fermentation in order to understand how to increase the beneficial and reduce the detrimental effects of tannins on the fermentation in order to achieve a more sustainable ruminant production. That's the final idea. And that's all. And thanks for your attention.
So thank you, Michele, for the presentation. Now I would like to get a question from the room about this topic. Is mandatory.
We are aware of the positive and negative effects of tannins. There are many studies. This is a really trending topic in the scientific community. So we would like to understand how to exploit the beneficial part and reduce the negative one, because we know that tannins in high amounts can impair the digestibility. So yeah, you're right.
Just to add, but for sure they have some potential, because for what they have seen here in this study, using pure tannins instead of extracts, probably they have more potential and they can be useful in reducing the production of methane from ruminants. Therefore, in my opinion, with more study, well, in vivo, especially, we were able to see and say if this potential is confirmed. But of course, we need more time in order to define this, okay? The most important thing is why we are focused on this aspect, because we have to consider that ruminants especially are not so glamour, okay? For the people and so on, because everyone said, oh, the hamburger produce I don't know how many quantity of methane for producing them, is time consuming, water consuming, soil consuming, and so on. But actually, for who work in livestock production, we have to keep in mind that these animals are not in competition with us, because they consume forages and we don't eat until now forages. Of course, we have to find a solution for mitigate the production of methane in order to reduce the environmental impact. So thank you very much, Michele. Actually, we are able to move to the next presentation that will be given by Luca Ferrari.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a PhD student in my third year, and I'm doing my period abroad in Belgium in a European Joint Research Center. And so today I'm going to talk about antimicrobial resistance, and in particular how to determine antibiotics in feed at cross-contamination level. As I said, this is a project done in collaboration with the European Joint Research Center located in Geel in Belgium. Let me start by giving you some background information. So IMR, or antimicrobial resistance, has been defined by the World Health Organization as one of the main threats to human health caused by misuse or abuse of antibiotics. Just to give you an idea, EFSA estimated around 33,000 deaths per year due to AMR in the European Union alone, with healthcare costs around 1.5 billion euros per year. But what is AMR? AMR is a natural ability of bacteria to constantly find new ways to avoid the effects of antimicrobial used to treat the infections they cause. So AMR is a consequence of natural selection amplified by human factors such as the inappropriate use of antimicrobials in both human and veterinary medicine. From this, the One Health concept that recognizes that the health of people is connected to the health of animals and the environment, meaning that we have to reduce the use of antibiotics also in veterinary medicine. Indeed, animals carry germs in their gut, including antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and these bacteria can be transferred to humans directly through via consumption of contaminated food, or indirectly through the environment. For this reason, the European Union has banned the administration of antibiotics as growth promoters to farm animals in 2006, even if other countries arrived later, for example, the USA in 2017 or China in 2020. To further decrease the use of antibiotics, since January of this year in the European Union, the daily administration of feed containing antibiotics is also prohibited. This means that from now on, only sick animals under a prescription of a veterinarian can be treated with medicated feed. However, cross-contamination remains a big deal. Why? Because feed business operators can manufacture a wide range of animal feeds for different animals, and farmers, based on a prescription of a veterinarian, may request from the feed mill to prepare a limited amount of compound feed supplemented with specific antibiotics at specific level in order to treat sick animals. After the delivery of this specific feed batch, the mill needs to clean the whole mill to ensure that cross-contamination of this specific batch into the subsequent one is as low as possible. In fact, it is well known that traces of antibiotics in feeding stuff, especially at low level, may trigger the growth of microorganisms that are resistant against antibiotics, increasing the risk of AMR. At low level in particular, compared to therapeutic levels, antibiotics do not kill bacteria, increasing their chance of becoming resistant. In order to address this peril to human and animal health, Regulation 4 of 2019 requires that the European Commission sets maximum level of cross-contamination in complete feeding stuff for 24 antibiotics, at which the risk of AMR formation is negligible. In this scenario, JRC received an official request to develop and validate analytical methods for these 24 antibiotics. This slide shows you in detail how the analysis is carried out in the laboratory. First of all, antibiotics are extracted from the matrix, from the feed, using a specific solution. After centrifugation, in order to separate the solid fraction, the liquid is loaded into these SP cartridges. So at this stage, the antibiotics are trapped into the absorbent material present in these cartridges, so we can purify them from the interferences present in the matrix, and at the same time, we can concentrate them, allowing us to lower the limit of quantification as much as possible. Here you can see the results we have achieved by applying two different methods originally studied for a product of animal origin. So we can see that the purification part called SPE works very well, with recoveries around 90% in most of the cases, while the extraction step gave not very promising results. You can see a recovery of 20% in some cases, or even less. This because extraction is followed by a pH adjustment step in order to make the pH compatible with the purification step. And during this phase, we noticed how after centrifugation, a deposit was formed that was not present before. And this deposit increased as the pH increased, as you can see from the picture. So at pH 3 or 4, there is no precipitation, while at pH 11, you can see a huge amount of deposit. So the question, does pH influence the final result? to answer this question, we extracted a blank feed and we contaminated it with a standard solution before the pH adjustment and after pH adjustment and subsequent centrifugation. So in practice, the only difference between the blue samples and the orange one is the precipitation that occurs in this step. With the recovery values, we built these curves for all the antibiotics involved in this study. And you can see how for some of them, for example, for spectinomycin or for amprolium, the two curves are comparable or similar. So there is no effect of pH on the recovery values, while for the other four, there is a huge difference. In particular, in the region I highlighted in light blue, that is the pH recommended by the original protocol. For example, for apramycin, you can see that around 50% of the antibiotic is lost with precipitation. Indeed, with the only cleanup step we have, that is the orange point, we have around 80% of recovery, while when we consider the pH adjustment step, that is the blue point, we have around 40% of recovery. On the other hand, if we go to more acidic pH, for example, pH 3 or 4, the precipitation doesn't occur. Indeed, we have the two values that are closer. So, based on our findings, we can conclude that pH 4 is the best value of pH to conduct this analysis. And as I said at the beginning of this presentation, it is very important to distinguish between voluntary administration of antibiotics with medicated feed to treat diseases and infection, and administration of antibiotics caused by cross-contamination. This is why it is very important for EU member states to have a reliable analytical methods for monitoring very, very low levels of antibiotics in feed to prevent the spread of antimicrobial resistance. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions.
This presentation is focused on how to measure, detect the presence of different antimicrobials or antibiotics in feedstuff. You know that feedstuff is a very complex matrix. Therefore, we have to work on the methods in order to detect them. Quindi quello che ho detto è che i mangimi sono una matrice complessa, quindi quantificare gli antibiotici eventualmente presenti in tracce perché è frutto di una cross contamination è particolarmente difficile, e quindi la messa a punto di metodi è un aspetto di sicurezza alimentare molto importante.
Sono importanti i metodi, ma soprattutto sono metodi che poi devono essere applicati dai laboratori di controllo in tutti i paesi. Quindi poi non è solo gli antibiotici che si vanno a cercare, ma è anche metodi che poi possano essere applicati da tutti, perché non tutti possono avere strumenti di ultima generazione, quindi poi bisogna anche interfacciarsi su queste problematiche qua. Quindi non è solo l'antibiotico, la difficoltà, la complessità del mangime, ma è anche poi la strumentazione con la quale i laboratori hanno a che fare e devono lavorare, insomma.
Perfetto, Luca. Allora, ti ringraziamo. Facciamo anche a lui un applauso, ragazzi. So, shall we move to the next presentation? And it will be about insect from Matteo Ottoboni.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And thanks for joining this seminar day. Up to me, the hard task of driving you to the coffee break. Please keep your attention 10 minutes more. Hope you will enjoy this presentation. My main interest of research is insect, as you can see here from the first slide. And insect as feed or food are supposed to be a new or a novelty, an innovative feed ingredient. But is it actually like that? Well, I don't think so, because as you probably know, insects have been used for human consumption since many centuries ago from different countries, in example, Africa, Asia, South America, and over 1900 species of insects are eaten worldwide. And what about feed? Is it a novelty for feed? Not yet again. Here you can see a quite old study on the use of insects in feeding animal. In example, swine. This is a study from Newton, a researcher from 70s. And here again, maybe you will know this book. It's a screenshot from a nutritional manual from Ed Agricole. It's an edition from 80s, and already the meal of some beetles insect meal was described in terms of both nutritional content, practical use for feeding animal, and so on. I'm not going into detail, just for telling you that insects, well, are not actually real news. So what about the present? The real news about insect is their role in circular economy. Indeed, they perfectly fit at the present in circular economy, which is the main driving force in the economy of Western country. Indeed, insects are supposed to be able to recycle, let me say, food waste into valuable nutrient like feed for animal, which can then reflow into the cycle as food, and cycle again with containing the food losses and keeping food losses into the food chain. But what about the legislation? We are obliged also to keep in mind that well, insect has a great potential, but well, we should respect the legislation. The three main pillars on the use of insect in European Union as feed in this case are this one. So the substrate used for feeding insect, which species of insect can we use, and the target species, which animal species can eat insect meal. Well, trying to answer one by one to this question, we can say that the feed that we should use for growing insect, which are supposed to be then used for producing feed, should be just based on vegetable, and we cannot use food waste, sludge, manure, or waste from the kitchen, and so on. That's because insects are considered farmed animal, so we should feed them with specific feed. Well, the second key pillar on the use of insect are the species. Can we use all insects? No, that's not like this. We can use just 8 species of insect, which has been authorized by the legislator. I'm not going to list you all the species, but just remind that we should use just the authorized species of insects. And considering the target species, since 2021, we can use insect for feeding almost all class of animal, including pet, of course, fish, poultry, and pigs. Of course, we cannot use insect for feeding ruminant. This is because of the feed ban, which rise after the mad cow disease in early 2000 here. Well, I'm not going to annoy you again with legislation, but let's talk about the insect potential. We already mentioned in the previous slide that insects are able to convert low value substrate like food waste or vegetable and so on into valuable feed material. You can see here a tree plot. You are maybe much more familiar to see this tree plot for soil quality, right? Are you? Shake your hand, please. Yes. Okay. But in this case, we synthesize the information on nutrient content. So carbohydrates, protein, and the lipid content on substrates on the top, and insect biomass on the bottom. And you can clearly see that insects are able to rebalance the nutrient composition of low value substrate into high value feed biomass. But well, what about the chemical composition? Of course, we well know that insects are naturally rich in lipid and protein, so energy and protein, which is a very good aspect, but we should also consider that it's not constant both the content of lipid and protein, but change largely considering the species of insect. Here you can see the main species of insect which are authorized for feeding animal. And well, you can see that the protein content changed quite a lot, moving from over 20% up to just 9% of several. And the same situation for fat content. Not only in the case of species, we can see a quite huge variability, but also considering the physiological stage of insect. Indeed, moving from insect characterized by incomplete metamorphosis like cricket, locusta, and so on. In this case, the composition is quite similar through the whole physiological stage. This is quite predictable due to the fact also that, well, the insect look the same since it was young up to the adult phase. But that's, of course, is not the case of insect characterized by incomplete metamorphosis like Coleoptera and so on, which are characterized by larvae phase and adult phase. In this case, the chemical composition changed largely. You can see here some example, and well, in the case of Hermetia illucens and Musca domestica, Tenebrae molita, which are all insects characterized by complete metamorphosis. So insects which grow through different physiological stage, starting from eggs through larvae, prepupae, pupae, and then the adult form. And you can clearly see that in example of crude fat, the composition can change from 4 to 32%. So it's quite huge, the variability. So we should take in consideration this aspect, because if we want to feed our animal with insect meal, we should take into consideration the physiological stage. So which is the best physiological stage for harvest our insect and produce insect meal? Well, one of the best candidates for producing feed is supposed to be Hermetia illucens. Why? Because it's very rich in protein and fat, but also because it grows fast. And you well know that this is a leading factor in especially in animal production. This is a slide summarizing results of one of the main study that we conducted on Hermetia illucens. And you can clearly see that even considering just one species of insect and a single physiological stage, because we analyze black soldier fly, so Hermetia illucens at the pre-pupa stage, the chemical composition can change largely, even just moving to different substrate used for growing them. So we test restaurant waste, vegetable waste, digestate, and also broiler feed. And you can clearly see that in example, the fat composition changed largely. So another aspect to take in consideration. And here, just to propose you an approach of using insect meal in animal feed. Here you can see on the main table on the left, yes, I suppose on the left, a conventional diet intended for fish, farmed fish. I talked about carnivorous fish, so I suppose that this is a diet for salmonids or trout or whatever. Again, we can easily substitute one of main ingredient in fish feed, like fish meal, by tenebrimolitor meal, which is a meal produced from a coleoptera. And we can substitute the 20% of fish meal with insect meal. And you can clearly see that the chemical composition does not change quite a lot, and fish can grow easily, and the meat quality also is not compromised. What about the price? Another challenge. Actually, insect protein are still too expensive. Indeed, the price per ton is between 3,500 and 5,500 euro per ton. And so this is maybe a challenge for animal production. But on the other hand, you can clearly see that talking about conventional protein source like fish meal, the price is growing and growing in the last year. You will know the crisis of feedstuff material in the last year due to the current situation. And well, the price grew up to 2,500 euro per ton. And it was, let's say, 30% less last year and 50% less, more or less, 2 years ago. So maybe the insect play a leading role in this case, maybe using local producer for producing insect, and so do not use foreign material and so on. Well, let's move to the take-home message. Last 3 bullet points before the coffee. We can see that insect can consider a good alternative feed ingredient for our animal, and they are able, of course, to convert low-value substrate into high-quality biomass, very rich in protein and fat. But of course, we should also consider several aspects, like the growing media, the growing substrate, the feed we use for growing insect. Indeed, the quality of insect can change largely, moving to one to another growing substrate, and also the physiological stage. That's all on my side.
The question from the room is which kind of processing we can propose for such material in order to transform them in feeding stuff.
Okay.
In Italian.
In Italian is ok? Ok. Complimenti per la domanda. Per brevità non ho aggiunto tutto quanto sulla legislazione per non annoiarvi ulteriormente, ma i processi di trasformazione sono descritti dal legislatore. Sono gli stessi proposti per le proteine animali trasformati, quindi le ex farine di carne, pre-bando, BSE, eccetera, e devono essere processati, quindi disidratati e sterilizzati a delle temperature. Comunque essere processati per essere prodotte proteine animali trasformate. C'è un piccolo distinguo, un'ulteriore possibilità dell'uso degli insetti in produzioni animali, ossia l'utilizzo dell'insetto vivo. Infatti nel biologico è possibile utilizzare l'insetto vivo per alcune specie, per esempio gli avicoli, i polli e anche per i pesci. I ruminanti restano sempre esclusi, sempre in virtù del feed ban del 2000.
Matteo, you have 2 questions from also online from Sladana and also Professor Giovanni Savoini. I don't know who is the first. Seems to be Professor Savoini in the sequence reported on the screen.
Matteo, grazie della presentazione. Io avrei due domande. Una che è connessa alla prima domanda e che riguarda i potenziali rischi delle farine di insetti in termini, non so, di contaminanti, vettori virali, eccetera. E la seconda, dato i costi veramente molto elevati come fonte proteica, ci puoi dire qualche cosa su un utilizzo di derivati dagli insetti, al processing di insetti? Mi sembra che alcune ditte, come ad esempio la BASF, stia già mettendo sul mercato, abbia già messo sul mercato dei derivati dagli insetti con alcune proprietà funzionali. Grazie.
Okay, many thanks for the very interesting question. And actually, I will try to translate your question to the audience also from abroad. The first was related to the health issue in specific on contaminants present on insect. And the second related to the price and the potential of insect and different use in animal nutrition. Considering the health issue, that's the reason why just few species of insect have been authorized by the European Union. Indeed, since the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that only 8 insects are authorized. That's because the legislator is to the legislator, different studies have been provided on the safety of insect just in terms of nutrient content and the absence of allergenic agents and so on. And also one of the main pillars of the legislation I mentioned before that was related to the substrate used for feeding the insect. And this is a main pillar also in terms of safety and yes, of safety of insect. Indeed, working and dealing on the quality of substrate, like using a substrate safe enough in terms of absence of pathogens and so on, we can ensure a good quality in terms of health and the absence of pathogens. And then I will strengthen the concept of health also mentioning the question from the audience, the processing of insect. This is another very interesting aspect for ensuring good and safety quality product. And considering the additional value and the price of insect, the second question, I can tell you that yes, you will know that the insects are actually quite costly, but one of the main advantage of insects is related to the the local production, so avoid the source of protein or fat which come from abroad, and you can well see you know we know that we are having many problems in getting some stuff from abroad. And another advantage is related to the functional property. Indeed, we can use insect maybe for provide some functional food, some functional molecule like chitin, which can be converted to chitosan, or maybe fortify insect with a specific nutrient. But this is another chapter, of course. We can try to fortify insect maybe with omega-3 fatty acid or micronutrients, and then provide to our animal insect which are rich in fatty acid, essential fatty acid, or micronutrients like selenium, vitamins, and so on. Thanks for the question again.
Thank you, Giovanni. So shall we move to Zladana? Zladana, thank you for staying with us until now. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I have one question. Do you have any information if there was any market research conducted in Italy regarding the use of insects as animal feed? Do you know?
You mean if actually are used in some farms in Italy?
Yes.
Market or farms?
Yes.
Just market? on the market? Both.
Generally, feed producers, and also, is there any information on attitudes of potential buyers of animal products?
Okay. Consider. Good morning, Zlatan. Thanks for the question. First of all, considering the producer, actually, I know as far as I know that some factories are trying to produce insect for feed purpose. I mean, food producing animals, so pigs, poultry, and so on. And this factory are mainly factory which were involved in insect production for pet animal in the past. So they are trying to switch the production from pet industry, pet food, and so on, to farmed animal, but are quite small industry at the moment. And considering farms that are at the moment using insect, I don't know. Yeah, I know that no one is using them, at least for fish. But fish, you will know that are the main species and the first one authorized for feeding insect. And considering the other, I suppose that the answer is the same. So no one is using insect at the moment for food producing animal. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zlatan, for the question. So as always, insect reactivate the audience, and this is a positive, especially for the students. So thank you to everybody for coming back to this webinar. I invite Zlatan to share the screen. As I said, this project is a grande rilevanza project. It is impossible to translate in a better way, in which a Serbian parity, the Serbian parity and the Italian parity work together on sustainable animal nutrition, and the FINS Institute is a leading institute about feed technology. And specifically, Zlatan is the principal investigator for the Serbian part, okay? So Zlatan, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. As Professor Pinotti announced me, my name is Slađana Rakita, and today I will give a short presentation about the use of oilseed byproducts in animal nutrition, with emphasis on cold-pressed oilseed cakes. Due to the excessive use of global resources, increasing growth population, better living standard, urbanization, and changes in nutrition, there is a growing demand for animal products. And in light of that, finding a sufficient amount of food for animals, particularly proteins in animal nutrition, becomes a huge challenge. Animal feed is the most expensive part of animal feed production, accounting for 60 to 70% of total animal feed production costs. And according to predictions, animal feed production is expected to increase by 70% until 2050. Therefore, with fluctuating feed prices, producers are in search of alternative feed ingredients that could either partially or completely replace traditional feed ingredients. Oilseeds are mostly used as a source of proteins and oil in animal nutrition, while soybean is commonly used feed ingredient. However, there are several concerns regarding the use of soybean in animal feeding, such as high price, GMO issue, land use, dependence on the import, high CO2 emission due to long distance transport. In light of this, along with increasing feed prices, finding suitable alternatives to soybean in animal nutrition becomes a top priority. In oil processing industry, a huge amount of byproducts remain after oil extraction. Two different extraction methods are used to obtain oil for food industry. The first one is the method which uses different organic solvents, and the remaining byproduct is oilseed meal, which has high protein content, and the content of residual oil is very low, below 1 to 2%. Another method is used for oil extraction, so-called cold pressing method, which uses mechanical pressing to extract oil, and that oil is of high quality, so-called cold pressed oil, and the remaining byproduct is cold pressed oilseed cake. A great amount of oilseed cakes and meals are available with world oilseed production of 600 million metric tons. These byproducts represent a good alternatives to cover the increasing demand of protein sources in animal nutrition. Solvent extraction method is commonly used, while there are some concerns regarding the use of organic solvents, which has a detrimental effect on environment. On the other hand, cold pressing method is cheap method, which does not involve using of any organic solvents, and if this method also doesn't use any thermal treatment or heat. Cold pressed oilseed cakes are good protein source, and considering they are a byproduct of oil processing industry, they are a relatively cheap feed ingredient. They are eco-friendly, and they can be locally produced. The inclusion of these cakes in animal nutrition can have beneficial effects on growth performance and animal health as well. Various oilseed cakes can be used in animal nutrition as a protein feed ingredient, such as rapeseed cake, camelina seed cake, sunflower seed cake, linseed cake, hemp seed cake, and many others. They can be included in diet for ruminants, in dairy cows especially, also in diet for steers, for sheep, for goats. Also, they have a huge potential to be included in diet for monogastric animals, in pigs, also in poultry. Cold pressed oilseed cakes are characterized with high protein content. The protein content is between 20 and 45%. They're also characterized with high oil content, more than 10%. They are also rich in certain minerals, in fibers, vitamins, and they have a balanced amino acid profile. They are observed as a good source of essential fatty acids, particularly omega-6 and omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are very important for animals because animals cannot synthesize these fatty acids, which are essential for proper functioning, for maintaining body functions, and these essential fatty acids have to be included in diet. Cold pressed cakes are low in saturated fatty acids, which is very beneficial, and linseed cake is the major source of omega-3 alpha-linolenic acid, followed by camelina seed cake and hemp seed cake, which are also good source of omega-3 fatty acids, while pumpkin seed cake and hemp seed cake are good source of omega-6 fatty acids. Not the absolute amount of these fatty acids is important for animals, but the ratio of these fatty acids. The ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids should be as low as possible. And that ratio can be obtained with the inclusion of these oilseed cakes, since they have a balanced fatty acid profile. There are no consensus on the influence of the addition of oilseed press cakes in animal diet. There are many contradictory results regarding the use. Oh, sorry. There are contradictory results regarding the use of these cakes in animal nutrition. The most important thing is that they should not have detrimental effect on animal performance or animal health. According to some research data, the inclusion of this cake can improve milk yield. Also, they can improve feed conversion ratio and rumen function. They can enhance blood plasma profile and plasma antioxidant status. This property is associated with beneficial profile of fatty acids in oilseed cakes. And the inclusion of these cakes in animal diet is a good way to modify fatty acid profile of animal products, of meat, milk, and eggs. And this is a good way to obtain omega-3 eggs or milk. However, there are certain limitations which restrict the use of these cakes in animal nutrition. Mainly, these cakes have anti-nutritional compounds such as glucosinolates, phytic acid, condensed tannins, etc. And depending on the type of anti-nutritional compound, they can form insoluble complexes with proteins, with enzymes, or with minerals, which can decrease nutrient utilization. Also, these complexes can deteriorate feed intake, palatability. Also, they can decrease growth performance. It was evidenced that glucosinolates from rapeseed oilseed cake have a harmful effect on thyroid and liver functions. This effect is also observed in camelina seed cake, but the harmful effect of camelina seed cake is much lower than that from rapeseed cake, because glucosinolates and their metabolites are of different structures, so the negative effect is less pronounced. And in order to avoid detrimental effect of inclusion of these cakes in animal nutrition, the inclusion of these cakes in diet for animals, especially for monogastric animals, should be restricted to a certain level. So the percent of oilseed cakes in animal diet for pigs and poultry is much lower than that for ruminants. And thank you for your attention.
So, Zlatana, it was a very nice presentation. I have seen some data that probably we hope will be published very soon in our paper, joint publication. And so in case the paper will be available on the web page of our project, if it will be accepted by the journal that we submitted. It is under review. We don't know. Okay, Zladana, thank you very much for the presentation. It is important to underline that Serbia is one of the main producers of soybean meal non-GMO in Europe. And in fact, very close to Zladana's site, Novi Sad, there is also the base or one of the leading producing factory of soybean meal, just to avoid to mention name, Victoria Group and so on. They produce a lot of material, including also molasses from soy, and we have applied for a project to the Cariplo Foundation in order to produce some specific material starting from that syrup obtained from soy processing. We will see very soon if it will be financed or not. So thank you, Zladana, again for your support. And well, it's time for move to the next presentation that I hope it will be useful in reactivating again your interest. Davide Lanzoni.
So good morning, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure for me to be here and to talk with you about the use of hemp in feed sector. So I introduce myself. My name is Davide Lanzoni. I'm a PhD student in science nutrition, and my project involves the nutrition and also functional characterization of hemp and also hemp-based products, not only in food but also in feed sector. This slide shows the starting point of my research. As you know, the constant growth population will reach 9-11 billion people by 2050. And in parallel, there will be also an increase in food demand, in particular for that concern meat production. Following FAO consideration, the meat demand will reach 455 tons by 2050, which means an increase of 76% from 2005. As a consequence, there will be also an increase in feed protein demand. You have to think that only 2013, 155 million were consumed by monogastric animals. This is an important point because feed represents the main cost for a farmer. So all these increases, global population, food and feed demand, are negatively involved with environmental health. And for this reason, research is investigating new food feed alternatives, which are able not only to ensure food safety, but at the same time to play an important role in environmental health. Among these alternatives, today we will talk about hemp and also hemp-based products. Hemp originated in Central Asia and then reached Europe around the second millennium before Christ, and then in Italy around the 1st century, where here it was used for different purposes, for example, by Roman Empire to fiber and also textile industry. But in 1974, Italian government stopped the production of hemp, linked to the fact that there was the discovery of the adverse effect of THC on human health. In 2013, with the regulation 1307, the cultivation of this plant was restored, with the only limitation that the seeds of this plant were characterized by a THC content less of 0.2 or 0.3% of THC, 0.2 in Italy. Hemp, or called also industrial hemp, belongs to the genus of cannabis, which in turn comprises 3 species, which are cannabis indica, sativa, and also ruderalis. Nowadays, we only consider cannabis sativa, linked to the fact that these plants tend to cross each other and tend to create hybrids. We have not to confuse hemp or industrial hemp with marijuana, linked to the fact that cannabis sativa is divided in 3 chemical chemotypes, which are drug type. In this case, I'm talking about marijuana, and it is used for narcotic purposes, and it is characterized by an high THC content and low CBD. Which are the 2 main phytocannabinoids of this plant. Chemotype 2, characterized by a similar content of CBD and also THC. And in the end, we can find a chemotype 3 called also fiber type. And in this case, I'm talking about hemp and also industrial hemp. And these plants are used for example, in food and feed sector or production of fiber. But the question that we have to do is why research is investigating new hemp-based products like new feed alternatives. First of all, because hemp plays an important role in environmental health. First of all, it is able to grow in various agroecological conditions. It prevents soil erosion and doesn't require a large amount of water and also herbicides. And also it is so important for phytoremediation and also carbon sequestration, in particular from 9 to 13 tons for each hectare. But at the same time, because hemp is used, for example, energy, building, paper, textile, and also clothing industry, thanks to the large amount of fiber, also in pharmaceutical and also cosmetic, for the presence of flowers, which are characterized by an important oil called essential oil, characterized by an high functional activities, and also in food and food sector, due to the presence of seed, which are previously considered a waste product of this plant, but characterized by an high nutritional and functional values. For this reason, our research group wanted to compare hemp and also hemp-based products, in particular hemp seed flour and also hemp seed protein extract, with matrices which are deeply used in feed sector, in particular soy protein extract and the flaxseed, which are characterized by an high cost for that concern flaxseed and a negative role for that concern soybean. As you can see in this table, we have to compare hemp seed with the flaxseed. The crude protein content is similar for these two matrices, and this is also true for hemp seed protein extract and also soy protein extract. For that concern, the value of digestibility after in vitro digestion protocol, these values are similar for protein extract of hemp and also protein, but hemp seed shows an high value of digestibility. If nutritional properties are deeply investigated in the literature, the nutritional one are at primordial stage. For this reason, our research group want to investigate the total phenolic content and also antioxidant activity of hemp-based products. For that concern, total phenolic content, we refer to phenols, which are secondary compounds produced only by the plants against UV radiation. At the same time are so important because are characterized by an antioxidant activity. And to measure all phenols present in a sample, we use a Foley-Chan Colton method, which permit simply to obtain, to measure all phenols present in a compound through a colorimetric reaction. As you can see in this image, darker color indicates more concentration of these compounds. For that concern antioxidant activities, we measure these activities through FRAP and also BTS. The first one permits the quantification of compounds which are labeled to reduce the complex ferric ions ligand to ferrous complex. And for that concern, BTS permits the quantification of antioxidant activities through the quantification of free radical scavenging capacity. Also for antioxidant activities, for that concern FRAP, the principle is similar to the Foley-Chan Colton method. As you can see in this image, flowers are characterized by an higher antioxidant activity than hemp seed protein extract, flaxseed, and also soy protein. But for that concern ABTS, the principle is opposite. As a matter of fact, darker color indicates minor concentration of antioxidant molecules. In this table, I just reported two data about the functional properties. The first column indicates the total phenolic content, the second ABTS, and the third one linked to the FRAP. For the first total phenolic content and also ABTS, the values are so similar for that concern hemp seed and also flaxseed and the protein extract. Different values were obtained for hemp seed in comparison with the flaxseed. As you can see, these values for hemp seed are higher than the second one. For that concern flowers, all total phenolic content, ABTS and also FRAP were higher, linked to the fact that flowers are only part of this plant characterized by high content of CBD, which is known to have antioxidant and high antioxidant activity. So all these data are suggesting that hemp and also hemp-based products could be used in the feed and also food sector. This is my last slide. I have decided to report some data about literature studies in which authors investigate the use of hemp-based products in monogastric livestock sector, in particular on sows and piglets, broiler, and also laying hens. And all authors reported how the treatment with hemp and hemp-based products, for example, in sows, improved the protein content, polyunsaturated fatty acids on milk and also colostrum, improving the performance of piglets. The same happens also for broiler and also laying hens with a better concentration of PUFA in breast meat and also in egg yolk without modifying the growth performance of this animal. But I think that the most important point of this presentation is linked to the fact that some authors have not reported the contamination of THC and also CBD in the breast meat, in egg yolk, indicating that hemp and also hemp-based products could be used in animal feed, ensuring food safety. So with this slide, I've finished. So thank you for attention.
Thank you. The question was why the focus of this research has been mainly on monogastric instead of monogastric in ruminants. And the answer you heard is because actually the monogastric are more simple, let me say, instead of ruminant physiology of digestion and so on. However, just to complete, I would like to say that there is a lot of literature about ruminants, and there is some group also in Italy, for instance, somebody in the south who is addressing this topic in ruminants. So there is already a scenario open in that direction. We have Professor Giovanni Savoini who is asking.
Qual è la disponibilità di cannabis attualmente in Italia o in Europa e quale potrebbe essere potenzialmente? Inoltre non mi sembra di aver sentito il prezzo, però forse mi sono distratto io.
Buongiorno innanzitutto. Per quanto riguarda la produzione di canapa, oggi l'Italia si attesta come il secondo paese in Europa solo in seguito alla Francia. Per quanto riguarda i costi di produzione ovviamente della canapa sono costi elevati. Tuttavia non ho riportato qua per questioni tempistiche uno studio che metteva a confronto appunto semi di lino, semi di canapa all'interno di un ciclo di allevamento appunto di galline, ovaiole, broiler, e lo studio riportava come in seguito al rapporto comunque performance di crescita, prodotti e tutto, il guadagno economico per l'allevatore fosse maggiore per gli animali trattati con prodotti a base di canapa rispetto a una fonte convenzionale proteica come quelli di lino.
Ma ha un'idea di quanto, cioè, d'accordo, siamo i secondi produttori dopo la Francia, ma se dovessimo usarla, in quanto tempo la usiamo? Cioè quanta ce n'è rispetto, non so, al fabbisogno in soia o in altro? Ha un'idea o no? Solo per sapere, per capire.
E allora, tenendo conto che la canapa ha un ciclo vegetativo attorno a un centinaio di giorni, e tenendo conto che la canapa, innanzitutto appunto ci tengo a dire che sono appunto ancora studi primordiali, quindi anche tutti i sottoprodotti della lavorazione della canapa, perché in genere la canapa può essere utilizzata al 100%, nel senso che i semi possono essere utilizzati per appunto additivi nel food e nel feed, i fiori lo stesso. Per quanto riguarda anche il fogliame, quindi la biomassa esaurita, potrebbe essere utilizzata nel ciclo dei ruminanti. Una quantificazione assoluta non gliela so dire,
Okay,
però qualora dovesse prendere spazio appunto la coltivazione della canapa in particolar modo nel territorio italiano, essendo utilizzata al 100%, credo che la resa e i vantaggi economici siano notevoli anche da un punto di vista di salvaguardia ambientale.
Grazie.
Just a brief recap for the audience. The question was, which is the biomass of hemp available on the market, or at least in Italy. We are the second producer in Europe, but we don't have so much information about the potential for the feed market. Thank you very much, Davide. Shall we go to the next presentation? We move to farmer food, and the next presentation will be given by Sharon Mazzoleni.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sharon Mazzoleni. I am in the third year of PhD in nutrition science. And today I'm going to present a work about the inclusion of salty and sugary ex-food in the diet of growing and finishing pigs. My work has been conducted here in this research center, Agroscope, in Switzerland, where I worked for 5 months in this research center. All of us are aware about the huge problem that we have with the food waste. And today we are speaking about sustainability, but actually every day we should consider to find possible solution to reduce this food waste and food losses. In the last few decades, the need to find the need to move from a linear economy point of view to a circular economy point of view is increasingly strong. With the circular economy approach, we could prevent this waste of food and the food losses. How? Converting the food losses into animal feed ingredients. One of the possible solution has been found with former foodstuff products that seem to be, well, they are circular ingredients. But what are former food products? Former food products are products allowed by food law, as you can see in the slide. And they are reported in the catalog of feed material. For this reason, they are safe for animals. Originally, they were intended for human consumption, but for some aspects, like some problems due to manufacturing process or logistical problems or packaging defects, they are no longer intended for human consumption. Before I spoke about I spoke about two different words: food waste and food losses. We should underline that former foodstuff products are not food waste, are different from household waste and catering reflux. They mostly consist of pasta, bread, biscuits, chocolate, candies, and so on. Basically, products that are made by starch and fatty ingredients. For this reason, for the reason that they are rich in starch, fats, and sugars, they are suitable for pig nutrition. Our research group carried out several studies about this topic, and here in this slide, I report some of these studies. And what do we know about the inclusion of former foodstuff products? We know that results, especially on post-weaning piglets, showed that former food had no significant differences and that they had no detrimental effects on diet digestibility, growth performance, and metabolic profile of animals, stating that they are not detrimental for animal welfare. My work, my study wanted to evaluate the inclusion, the effects of these former food products in the no more in the post-weaning piglets, but in the later rearing phases, so in the growing and finishing pigs. And in general, my work evaluated the effects on growth performance, digestibility, metabolic profile, body composition, and also meat and carcass quality. But today, I will address just the part about growth performance and body composition. Briefly, the experimental design was composed by 36 animals divided in 3 groups. The first group received the standard diet. The second group received a diet in which the 30% of the conventional ingredients were replaced by sugary former foodstuff products. And the third group received a diet in which the 30% of common ingredients were replaced by salty former foodstuff products. The pigs started to receive the diet at 20 kilos, and they shift to a finishing diet when they reach 60 kilos. At the end, they were slaughtered at more or less 110 kilos body weight. Regarding growth performance, body weight were monitored weekly, and other measurements, calculations were made, such as average feed intake, average daily gain, feed conversion ratio. All of these measurements has been done both on growing and finishing phases. This is one of the most interesting part, in my opinion, because to assess the body composition of pigs, we used medical device, the dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, normally employed in human medicine to assess the body composition. The X-ray absorptiometry, the absorption, of X-rays is allowed and depends on the thickness and on the density and chemical composition of tissues. The scan with the DXA was carried out both on 20 kilos body weight pigs, so at the beginning of the experiment, and also at the end of the experiment, just 1 week before the slaughtering time. With this device, we could estimate the fat mass, the lean mass, and the bone mineral content. So we could understand the composition of underlying tissues. Here I report a lot of charts, just to say that no significant differences have been observed. So peaks regarding body weight, average feed intake, average daily gain, and feed conversion ratio didn't show any significant differences between groups. That means that all pigs grew up following the same trend. The same happened regarding the results about the body composition, both at 20 kilos and 100 kilos body weight. Regarding the gross energy content, crude protein content of tissues, and lipid content, no significant differences have been showed in these results. But don't worry, because in this case, for us, it's a positive aspect to not have any significant differences. Why? Because we can say that former foodstuff products are suitable also for growing and finishing pigs, thanks to the fact that no negative effects on growth performance and body composition were showed. And we can confirm once again that former foodstuff products are a good source of nutrients, and they can replace a part of conventional ingredients. If I think about the future perspective, we can say that maybe we could increase also the amount of these former foodstuff products in the pig's diet, but this needs to be investigated in the future. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any question.
Just to summarize for the audience at home, as we said, this material seems to be, or potentially, they have a big potential. We explore the inclusion up to 30%, and the question from the floor here in the room were about the processing. And as we said, there is a process related to the removal of packaging, and then milling and inclusion in the feed material. And about another aspect that was asked here in the room is about the meat quality. According to that, we are investigating with a panel test, with a sensory evaluation panel, if this diet is able to affect the sensorial properties of the meat, because from a compositional point of view, we are sure, already verified, that there is any difference. So that's all. Thank you very much, Sharon, for your presentation. And to move to the last presentation, it's a real pleasure for me to introduce the last presenting author, because Peng, Lin Peng, is our very recently recruited PhD here in nutritional science.
Okay, I am from Taiwan, and I study my master degree in Switzerland, and I performed this study in agroscope in Switzerland. And I am now the first year PhD student registered in the University of Milan in conjunction with Agroscope in Switzerland. So now I am going to continue with the application of using former foodstuff in pig production, but now the target are sows, so the mother of the piglet, instead of growing finishing pigs. We are interested in looking at including former food products, so here mainly former biscuit, in lactating sows' diet to see their effect on animal performance and milk quality. During lactation, a sow has to have a sufficient amount of feed intake in order to maintain her body weight, her body condition, and to produce enough sufficient amount and good quality milk for the piglet. After, the mammary tissue will uptake the nutrient circulating in the blood flow to synthesize milk. If the sow, she cannot meet the energy and nutritional requirement, she has to mobilize her body reserve to produce milk. And this is not the desirable condition for the sow, because after she needs a long time to recover herself. So for her, to maintain milk yield and quality, this period, the lactation period, is metabolically demanding. In this case, former food products, they possess a great potential to be used as feed ingredient in lactating sows' diet, because they are rich in sugar, rich in fat, and they have valuable energy content, and also they are highly digestible. So they could be suitable to partially replace traditional feed ingredients such as wheat or barley, and at the same time fulfill the requirement of sows during lactation. However, these biscuit, these candy chocolate, they are generally rich in saturated fatty acid and lack of polyunsaturated fatty acid, which can be a concern for the health of piglet. Why is it health concern for piglet? It is because the nutrient and the fatty acid composition in the former food product can directly affect the milk composition of the sow. And it has been known that polyunsaturated fatty acid, especially omega-3 fatty acid, they have several beneficial and health-promoting effects. They can improve the level of maternal immunoglobulins in the milks produced by sows. Also, they have properties such as immunomodulatory and antioxidative characteristic, which can help the piglet to protect themselves from pathogens and from diseases. So obtaining the lactogenic immunity, so the immunoglobulins in the milk from the sow can help the piglet to develop their immunity. In this way, they can get better gut health condition and better growth rate, which is important for pig producers. So what we did in our experiment is we have 20 sows, and they are divided in two groups. One diet with 25% of former food product inclusion, and here we mainly use biscuit. Another group is 50% of linseed cake inclusion, and this linseed cake is considered as ingredient rich in polyunsaturated fatty acid, and it is considered beneficial for the piglet. The experiment started at farrowing and ended at weaning for the sows. And here I just focus on the milk. So we take the milk samples on day 17 of lactation. for further nutritional and immunological evaluation. For piglet, we measure their body weight at several time points to have a full picture of their growth performance. So the result showed that the formal food included diet can change the composition of sow milk. As you can see in the graph, the concentration of dry matter, protein, total volatile fatty acid, and fat are higher in a biscuit included diet in biscuit group. However, the concentration of lactose was lower. And this could be this change in the nutritional concentration can be explained by the fact that the quantity of milk produced might be different between these two groups, because lactose is the main component that controls the osmolarity and the milk yield. So the higher nutrient concentration in the biscuit group can be a result of less milk production or less diluted milk. Since the formal food products, they are rich in saturated fat. So, and also the dietary fat sources can affect the fatty acid profile of the milk produced by sow. And here we can see that there are significant differences in the fatty acid profile, and the saturated fatty acid, especially this C12, the lauric acid, their percentage are higher in biscuit group, while several polyunsaturated fatty acid, especially the important omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid, their percentage were lower in biscuit group. Regarding the immunological parameters, there are no differences between the two treatments in terms of IgG, immunoglobulin G, IgA, and lactoferrin. So now we know that the milk composition can be influenced by the diet taken by the sow. So in our study, we didn't provide any additional feed for the piglet. So the only food source for the piglet is the milk. And we can see that the body weight, so the growth performance of the piglet seems to be less good than the conventional diet, the linseed diet. And also the average daily gain was lower in the biscuit group. Taken everything together, the important message is that considering the features of formal food products and the result we have, we recommend to reduce the inclusion level. We don't use 25% of inclusion. Instead, we can use 10 or 15% so that the animal performance will not be compromised. And then at the same time, formal food products still have great potential to be used as feed ingredients to replace the classic feed materials. And under this scenario, we can enhance the sustainability and implement the concept of circular economy in pig production. Thank you very much.
So seems to be, Peng, that your recommendation is we can use such material, but in a not so high amount for sow.
Yes.
Whereas in the case of growing pigs, up to 30%, we didn't observe any effect. Okay. You have shown that while for some components milk has been improved by biscuits, for lactose and the fat it was a little bit
Correct.
compromised,
Yes.
correct? So it means that these sources are able to affect mainly the energy source of the milk, and these affect mainly the growing of the piglets, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and in which inclusion you said 15 or 10, but in your opinion is we should consider in a farmer study more close to 15 or more close to 10 in a new study, in your opinion?
In my opinion, we can try 15% of inclusion, because in this study we also evaluate the cost effectiveness, and the biscuit included diet is cheaper compared to the conventional feed diet.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Peng, for your presentation. And we are at the end of this webinar. I hope you enjoyed this webinar in terms of contents and also as an experience here at the University of Milan. And I hope also that the people connected from their classroom and so on enjoyed the presentation. I would like to give my greetings and a double thanks to Sladana and Fins Institute, because they are a partner of this project, and we share so many experiences during the last 4 years thanks to this project, and we hope and we are going to apply for a new one, of course. So if there is any other topic or issue that need to be addressed, we are happy to conclude this webinar. For sure, probably next year we are going to maintain such kind of events in order to disseminate also our activities in a specific segment of animal nutrition. And therefore, if there will be the opportunity, I hope we can host not only the Institute, the high school from Treviglio, but also the others ones. We have enough space and also bigger room compared to this one. And accordingly, when possible, it will be nice to have also other people. I'm sorry for who was online because they didn't join us with a coffee break that I hope you appreciate. And that's all for today. And thanks to the teacher, the student, and whatever who were here, but especially to the speaker, the youngest researcher that we involved today. I hope we can have you next year eventually. Okay, thank you again. Bye to everybody. Have a nice day.